There we go.
Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for your patience, everyone, and welcome to the Community Health Committee meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you. So, for those of you who are new to this, let's do introductions. We'll go around the room first, and then those who are online, so everybody knows who is here today. I'm Lisa Gorley, Chair of the Community Health Committee, and we'll go this way.
Jim Gorley, former mayor of Sweet Home.
Jeff Lynn with the Police Department.
Sean Morgan with the Police Department.
Larry Horton, community member, Rotarian. Ray Towers, city manager.
Lydia, you want to announce that you're in here?
The GMO video.
Okay, thank you. Dick, would you like to introduce yourself?
And this is Dick
Turn your
Knowles.
speaker,
You're on
please.
mute.
Can you hear me now?
Still
Oh, we
on
can't
mute.
hear you.
Oops.
I can hear him.
Are they muted on our
Can you
end?
unmute him?
Okay.
It's showing that
I can hear you
Can see
fine.
if one of the
I
others
can hear. Yeah, I can hear you, Dick.
Okay. So,
Guessing they can't hear us
Bethany,
there.
would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Bethany from the Nazarene Church.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm thinking you didn't hear me either.
Yeah, they must not be able to hear
It's
us.
okay. I know that we've been doing this for long enough. People kind of get impatient. But I was on a webinar, and it was Yale's Center for Intelligence, and they were doing this outreach, or emotional intelligence, and they were having the same problems with technology as we were, but they were gracious and they were kind to each other, and we just got through it, and it was a wonderful opportunity for everybody on the call to participate. And so, do we got it now? Okay, Dick, can you speak now? Can we hear you?
I can speak now.
Oh, thank you.
People hear
Would
me?
you like to introduce yourself?
Dick Knowles, just a member of the committee and member of the community.
Thank you, Dick. Bethany, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Bethany. I'm the pastor at the Nazarene Church.
Thank you. Brandy?
Hi there, I'm Brandy O'Bannon. I'm the director of Samaritan Lebanon Community Hospital Foundation.
Thank you, Brandy. Blair?
Blair Larson, Community and Economic Development Director, City of Sweet Home.
Thank you. And do we have other guests on? Brock, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. My name is Brock Byers, and I'm a program manager for Family Assistance Center, and we do street outreach.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay. And is that all so far? Okay. Thank you. So first order of business is we need to approve the minutes from July, August, October, and November. I believe we can do them all in one motion if we had a motion.
I have an addition to the November, if I
Okay.
might. My name doesn't appear.
Okay.
And I believe you have Bob Dalton down as a video, but he was actually at the meeting, as I remember.
Okay.
So maybe someone got my name mixed up. I was their video.
Okay. Thank you, Dick.
Mhm.
So as amended, I would entertain a motion. Thank you, Larry. We have a first on accepting the minutes. Do we have a second?
Larry was the second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Larry was the second or the first. Who was the first?
Then I'm the second.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion that has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, as amended. Thank you. So let's go through and do our committee reports. We will start with the Community Health Fair Committee. That would be Dick's group. He has several hats that he wears. Dick, do you have anything to report?
No, I don't think so at this time.
Thank you. I know you have several things you've been working on to that end. Larry, do you have anything to report? Yeah.
Western University meeting with the high school. 20 signed up and they actually have.
I actually can't hear Larry.
Can't hear me?
No.
His speaker is on. So
Hear me now, Dick?
No, it's off
No.
now.
No,
it's got to be, yeah.
I don't know about the others, but
Can you hear me now, Dick?
it's probably better that I can't.
The volume control.
Try it now, Dick.
Sorry to say,
nothing?
I'm sorry to say I can hear you now.
Oh, you
Oh.
can. You're a lot of help, Dick.
You're quite
At any rate,
welcome.
12 to 15 kids have been attending on Wednesday afternoons with the students from Western University. Kristen Adams says it's going extremely well. The high school or the college students are doing an excellent job of tutoring with the kids and mentoring with them. So this program will actually go through, I believe, the end of May. So kids are getting some really good experience out of it.
Larry,
Sir,
would it be possible to maybe get some of those kids at the end of the program to?
I would think in May,
Yeah,
or maybe the month before,
that would be good.
have them either come in or go online. And
I think to be able to do it maybe here, but also at a school board meeting.
yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'll make a note for myself.
Great, thank you.
Uh-huh.
That's over for the year, but I have 2 more banners that I've got to get down to City Hall or to Public Works. But we do have the painting project. Did you want to talk about that?
Go ahead.
Well, we've been painting the buildings in town that probably nothing's been done with them for years. So a lot of those buildings have had their first facelift in a long time, and it's it's pretty interesting what people think of that. They really think it's quite a thing to have all those windows painted in town.
I'm impressed with how many artists have actually helped. There's been a number of people out there helping, and young ones, old ones, in between ones. It's been pretty exciting to see the interest from everybody.
I had 24, but then we had 3 more on Saturday, so I think we're up to 27.
Very good. They look really good.
27 artists.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of positive energy in that. So that brings us into the homeless discussion. So Bethany, would you like to bring us up to date on what's going on?
Sorry, I was taking notes. As far as what's happening, as of right now, the insurance issue has been resolved. So we did go ahead and put up the shelters for the temporary as we're trying to figure out what to do next, which was perfect timing because we got them up before the storm that came in. As of right now, we have 24 staying out there. So working on kind of creating that responsibility and community and working on transition and stuff like that. We're still trying to resolve how we're going to keep them warm as the weather gets colder. We've removed all propane and smoking and stuff and created kind of a central location with a cover for them to be able to cook and to smoke and that kind of stuff away from their sleeping area, just to create a safer space. And thankfully, we had them out there because they helped us keep our church from flooding yesterday. So they were out there digging trenches to get the water to run off our parking lot. So it, it was a very beneficial moment, and they all came together and worked really hard together. So that was impressive from our side of it. They have no reason to have stepped up, but they did step up yesterday and helped Jeff a lot. So those are kind of some of the minor things that we're working on right now just to get through the winter and this weather, and still working towards finding a solution as far as more if there's a permanent direction to go, and have a call into Eugene Mission to try and connect with them. They're not letting any outside people in, so trying to connect with like a virtual, so it'll be after the holidays right now, as you would expect. They're pretty busy trying to ramp up for the weather and the holidays and everything else, especially with the COVID piece of it. So just waiting to hear back to set a date to maybe have a conversation with them, how they got to where they're at, what they're doing, what maybe that would look like for Sweet Home if we could bring that in. So have program guidelines and code of conduct and stuff like that in place that we will be addressing with people that are staying here, so that we keep things looking nice, stay out of our neighbor's yard, stuff like that, so that we're honoring our city and community the best that we can while we're working through this process and trying to get through this interesting season that we're in with COVID and winter. So looking forward to what your guys' feedback is and what direction we can go, and maybe other information or paths that maybe you want me to research or check into. So we're kind of working through that and working with some insurance companies to figure out long-term solution to a problem insurance wise, but also what that looks like in the future, especially if it becomes something that's more permanent, what kind of structure needs to be set up, what we need to do. So kind of working on some of those details that we're running around and to be able to answer for you guys, or to answer to look at positives, negatives, what have other people done, that kind of thing, as we go before the council with any ideas that we might have.
And Bethany, if I could, I would encourage you to keep that discussion going with the likes of Eugene, Cahoots, things like that. They've got some extraordinary ideas. They've also got some options that probably aren't available in our community, but I do like the idea of some of the structural ideas. I've been working around them for a decade or so, and it's pretty impressive.
Anthony, I know that sometimes it's difficult to talk to us and see what we can do to help you and to work with your team. I know you guys have done a lot of background work and investigating what could be possible here. And so since we work from committees, I've asked Larry Horton if he would be that liaison for us, if that's possible. Okay. Not that you're always welcome, and I would love it if you guys are part of the group and stuff, but if there's increased communication, and if we're able to find ways that we can help, including maybe a location or something, that you'd have somebody to work with, okay?
Yes, thank you. Larry's been a big help just with some information, so it's nice to know who to connect with.
That works for me, Bethany. I do have a question for you, though. Can you hear me, Bethany?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. You said that you were a little concerned about, as the weather gets colder, that the shelters may not be warm enough. I know I talked with two of the gentlemen that are staying there, and both of them said that the tents were working really good for them. The shelters were dry, and if there was any problem, it was that they were too warm in their shelter. They both said that they had to sleep on top of their sleeping bags because it was so warm inside. So whatever, however you got the design, it seems to be working. And I agree with Lisa. Boy, we couldn't have got them into those shelters time-wise any better than we did, because the last 2 nights have been horribly wet. And I'm assuming that all of them are staying dry. Is everyone in a shelter?
as of today, everyone is in a shelter, and according to the people that have been in there through this wet, they said that the only reason they were wet is because they were out in it digging trenches yesterday. But one of the guys that crawled into his tent last night and passed out said when he woke up this morning he was very thankful that he was sleeping on top of his sleeping bag and he was dry and his stuff is dry that's in there. So it's been effective for a trial and error, not knowing what we were doing. It's effective as far as meeting that goal. So we're very thankful for that.
Well, that I think mainly is because of your research on the topic. When I was there, it looked like that there was actually a family that had moved in also. Is that accurate?
Still no kids, just a
Oh.
couple. We have 2 or 3 couples now. I haven't seen any kids. So
Okay, well, I saw some probably 14, 15-year-olds that I thought were there with 2 people, but maybe not.
they might have been bringing something down. We've had a lot of community volunteer stuff. So
Very good.
So Bethany,
yes.
this is Jim Gorley. Is there anything that you can think of at this time that might be an ask of the community? Because it's going to be 2 weeks before Rotary meets again and anything like that. So, I mean, if you're looking for volunteers for anything, it's probably going to be a short, a ways away if we're going through those avenues.
Yeah, as of right now, if we needed volunteers for anything, it would be to sort through what we have. Having one of our rooms flood yesterday kind of brought everything out in the open. So we're kind of looking at it going, oh, we have a massive amount of supplies. And so just figuring out how to get that back out to people as they need it. But like I said, I think what we're seeing is the community of the unhoused that are kind of here are working together to solve problems. So we're hoping that that kind of stays as a functioning unit for now. And if they'll work together, they'll stay warm through the winter, right? So I think the biggest ask is if people are asking you, ask them to please call the church before they just drop stuff off. We threw away over $100 worth of food last week.
Oh, well.
If we don't know it's there, we're not necessarily getting it. So just being really selective about, people are bringing food to them regularly and stuff like that. So the need has actually been met throughout the community really, really well. And for right at the moment, like getting through Christmas and everything, getting through the new year, we should be fine as far as meeting their needs and the resources that we have. So I know quite a bit of donation, like financially donation has come in too. So we're sitting on a significant sum to get through the next few weeks, and then we'll be able to kind of regroup as people are settling in. But somebody asked me the other day how many people can be here, and I'm like, we're max. Like we almost have more than we can handle. So we will draw that line. And we also found out that Lebanon was sending people, so we've made that phone call and stopped that. That's not what we're trying to do. So don't send them here. That's not what we're looking for. This is specifically to help those that are from here. So did have to address that and dealt with that this last week. So
I have another question for you as far as asks. When I was there a few days ago, there was a great deal of mud in the one area, and Jeff had talked about possibly needing some rock of some kind, gravel, brought in. Did that happen, or do you still have that need?
That's a very good question. The mud is still there, so I think we're trying to problem solve if like bark or rock would be better. So the conversation's kind of gone back and forth because the idea is that maybe if it was bark, it would settle into the ground better and not become a lawn mowing issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a significant amount of mud, especially after the last few days, us around where they go to use the restroom and stuff like that. So that would be if Larry, if you have somebody or a resource or somebody you can think of that could help with that. I mean, we could pay. We have the money to buy it if we need to. We just maybe need the truck to come in or the person to bring it in to put it down. And the homeless would help. shovel it or whatever they need to do.
All right,
So
I will make a call. I do know someone that has bark. So if you want bark, I can probably have a load of bark there tomorrow.
they would be very thankful, and it would be a
Okay.
blessing to have that
All right.
resolved.
All right. I'll make sure that happens tomorrow.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Is there anything else
Yeah.
regarding
Yeah.
the homeless discussion that we
Well, if I may, I was hoping to have a little bit of a discussion. I mean, everybody has worked really hard at starting to take care of some of the immediate needs through the winter. You know, Dr. Horton's worked extremely hard, Bethany, Sean, and there's a whole litany of people that have done that. I think at some point we need to start turning our attention to what's next. You know, really, and what's next is post-March or whatever that date may be, is what's the plan moving forward. And my concern is, you know, Sean and I have talked to a significant amount of people, you know, just around this issue, and there's a lot of different ideas out there as far as the vision. What's our vision look like for the extended future? And I think that's something that we really need to discuss, because I think there's a whole litany of different ideas out there. And how are we going to bring everybody together around a common vision, a common theme of what's the next step look like? What's the next property look like? What do we want to accomplish with that property? And then really, how do we get there? And really, sometimes Sean and I, you can vouch for me, we see kind of a shotgun pattern that's going on. You know, a lot of people are doing a lot of different things that are all fantastic, but how do we bring everybody together under this common umbrella of helping our unhoused? And I'm looking for ideas. You know, the city manager and I think Sean was there as well, had a really good conversation with Brock and his group on last Friday, and they have a lot of moving pieces with their efforts as well, and it really got us onto this topic of what are we going to present to our community, you know, for our plan.
did you want to say something?
I'm happy to wait until after your comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we've, bless their hearts, our churches have tried really hard, but we have issues about people not having services that they need, and that the services we've been able to provide have had issues with their capacity. And yet, there's always a funding issue, and we have these valiant people with One Sweet Home, and they work really hard, and they do know their stuff. And I think long-term, we need to look at a long-term solution, a place that we can get people the services they need, and so they are not left in people's doorways. They're not left alongside the road, in a ditch, in a tent. And I think we can get there. I do believe that those wheels have to be in motion and set up before, and there's certain people can probably have those conversations and make those things happen. But it is going to take a little bit more time than what we've had so far. And so, and my idea is if we do this and we're able to achieve it, then it'll help Sean, it'll help Jeff Black, well, and the different people that serve our community that's homeless, or those people who end up being homeless in the future that need to get back on their feet. And but we have to meet the state requirements for being closer to town and not too far out. Otherwise, we shoot ourselves in the foot. Jim?
Did you want to speak?
Yes.
Or?
there is certainly a need for compassionate aid and help. What I'll share is that there's a significant amount of public pressure, and this is a very divisive subject matter within our community. I have concerns that even with the best of intentions, people may or may not understand processes and best practices and those kinds of things that we would certainly be trying to incorporate. My concern becomes I believe wholeheartedly that we need this to be a community-oriented effort. I believe very strongly it's going to be advantageous for us to do a large-scale community input to determine what is the goal. I think that there's a lot of there are a lot of people out there who would simply say, well, our goal is to end homelessness. And I don't think that's realistic. Is it possible to put a system in place to aid those people who need and want help? I think that's a realistic goal. But I think whatever the outcome is from those people, this group and the other groups who are trying to help, the outcome needs to be the desired outcome, and the desired goal, I think, really needs to be part of a public input process so that we have clear definition from the community on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in our community. There's a lot of dissatisfaction in the community with what they're seeing right now. As hard as people are working, we are receiving a lot of feedback from the public that they are not in support of what they visually see at the Nazarene Church right now. So I would encourage us to maybe step back a little bit, and before we start taking any action other than what we've already been doing, to try and give people within the community the opportunity to come together, talk about desired outcomes. Because I can tell you right now, where there's a lot of fear that people from other communities are going to be coming here for these services. There's a mantra or a belief that if you make it easy, then you get more, you attract more. If you build it, they will come. And given what Pastor Bethany just shared with us, that we now know neighboring communities are sending their homeless to us, there are going to be a lot of members of the public that are standing there saying, I told you so. So I hate to see us start down a path as righteous and as good as it may be, and the intentions and are, and run into a lot of resistance that could potentially be avoided if we go through a process up front where everybody kind of comes around the table and we understand what our goals are and outline what's acceptable and what is not acceptable. So.
I think we've seen that problem with agencies for some time. Go to Sweet Home because property values are less and you can get cheaper housing. We've had that for many years. I think that no matter what we do, we'll have a capacity, but we need to rethink how we're doing it. And we've got great people that are willing to do the work and need the work to be done. But today and yesterday and last month and last year, we've just been putting a Band-Aid on it, and it hasn't served our community. So we need to be, I agree, we need to be super careful and methodical about how we move forward. But I do think that we could rise to the occasion, and people need to, wherever they're at, if they're homeless, whatever community they're in, they're going to have to be served by that community. Jim?
Well, I think it's pretty easy to serve by community. You just have to say that this is, if you didn't live here, you have to go somewhere else. But I mean, that's pretty simple to say, you know, what's your zip code, or, you know, where have you been living at? But that doesn't always work, because there's people that do move around or look for a place for their kid to go to school. So that may not always just be this is what we can do. I understand that.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. Bethany?
At least I'm not done. I do need to finish this. It's the same issues, though, that we've been dealing with, Dick, and some of the other mental health issues, is you're not able to get the services to the people. And how do we get those services to those folks? And we have to be able to deliver those services in order for people to be able to get out of where they're at, or get the help that they need to get out. And I think that's something, our number one goal is, how do we deliver services to people? And I think Sean deals with that every day, probably, is how do you get those services to the people, or how do you get the people to the services? And anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Bethany? You'll need to.
So when Chief Lynn mentioned that we need to be thinking about the future, I think that's part of what I took out of the council work meeting, was that they don't want a camp like this, which is not what we wanted to do either, but we want to figure out what's the best fit for Sweet Home. And like I said earlier, they brought up the mission in Eugene and that model and how that looks. And so what I think between Brock and One Sweet Home and myself, just kind of, if we draw together our resources and start putting together some of those options, what it would look like, and maybe create a model with the help and support of Chief Lynn and Sean, and even the city, between Blair and Ray, I think we'll be able to come up with something that's presentable to the community to be able to move forward. Maybe even preliminary wise by the time you guys have this next meeting, just so that I think all of us that are involved in this want to do the right thing by the city. Like we've all said, even myself, this camp at the Nazarene Church was never intended to be what it is. It's obviously mostly the way it is because of the year we're in, and to find the right solution and the right path going forward, including those mental health services and getting them to court dates. And I was talking to Dr. Kelly at the clinic this morning, and she said even like physically, their physical medical appointments and needs that need to be met, that they're not following through with because of the instability that they have. So finding a way to create a stable, safe environment for them to even start the process to get to mental health and to get to those things. What does that look like for Sweet Home? I think that's a question that we have to answer and work on, and it's going to take some time. Hopefully we have some kind of idea of a direction to be moving by March. But I mean, it's not staying here. March comes, it's gone, right? We're going to take it all down and put it away, and the homeless are back in the community wandering around. Doing whatever it is they're doing, unless we have another solution by then. So I think that's the question I think that Jeff is asking, Chief Lynn is asking, and really I think that's the question the council is asking too. What can we bring to the city, the community of Sweet Home, that says this is an issue, this is a resolution that we can work towards as a community and as a group of people to make it better, and not out in our businesses or in our homes or causing struggles in our backyard, so to speak. So I think that's my goal, at least, and I believe that's what Brock's goal is, and I'm pretty sure that's Matt's goal, is to just come together and find what that path is and that direction. And I know there's been a lot of research into that so far.
Thank you, Bethany. Matt, did you want to add to that? And then I call on Brock as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Bethany says it so well. So I think what she said is a good goal to shoot for, as well as Chief said. Getting through the winter, figuring out, we have 3 months less than 3 months really. Figuring out a permanent goal in that time would be really good, and getting the community involvement would be, I mean, we've had community involvement in giving things, but maybe getting them involved in the decision of what to do and how to help them long term. And I think what Bethany said about closing it up and rolling up the tents in March is probably a good thing, because we don't want it to. I don't think what I'm hearing is I don't think we want to create a camp long term. We want to help them. I would think the vision would be help them to be healthy emotionally and physically and mentally, and get them connected to the resources. So I think we have a time frame in the next 2-3 months to figure out what that's going to look like long term.
Thank you. Thank you. Brock, would you like to say something?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you. I wholeheartedly agree. It has to be a community effort. I agree with Chief. We need a vision. That's kind of what I put in the chat room is what is what? I don't know what it really is. I know there's a lot of groups that provide housing. There are groups that provide food. Our particular group, Family Assistance Center with Shirley Bird, provides outreach, and we're expanding into other areas. But how all those come together and what is in the best interest of the community, I agree, kind of needs to be discussed and drawn upon by the community and the group here. So I look forward to our future conversations and would love to participate and help facilitate, or wherever you need us to help. And we're excited that your community is so open to conversation, and look forward to what will be coming in the future.
Thank you, Bob. Brandy, would you like to address the group?
Thank you for the opportunity tonight. I'm just a guest. I'm getting to know the community and just was interested in listening. So I appreciate the opportunity to get to know you more.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody else have a comment, or Chief, did you want to?
Well, I just concur with so much that's been said, especially Pastor Bethany. I just think that's the path we need to go down so that everybody's understands what we're trying to accomplish long term. And everybody from the city manager to the council to the community, we all just have to be on, I think, a same page. And I think for the most part we are, but there's a lot that's going on out there, and we just need to try to figure out how to get that under one semi-umbrella. And what that umbrella looks like, I really don't know. Just that, because I know Dr. Horton's doing some work, Jim's doing some work, Brock's been doing some work, and are we all doing the same? Are we overlapping? Are we working in unison, and to what goal?
So Lisa, there's a phone number there with no name on it. I don't know who that is. And Joe Grable's on there too.
So somebody has the phone number 405-8220. Would you like to speak? Joe, do you have anything to add? Oh, sorry.
I believe that's Shirley Bird, but I'm not sure if she can.
Shirley? You're on mute.
She appears to be muted.
Okay, we'll go on. Joe, did you have something you wanted to add? Okay. Sean, did you have something you wanted to add to this tonight?
Ditto what Chief said. And also, We are making a lot of strides in connecting services to folks in general, as no water improvement across the board.
Have to push and hold it.
Can't hear you, Sean.
Oh, okay. Yeah, ditto what the chief said, I agree. And Bethany.
Do I still have to hold it?
No.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to say that the services are really, we've seen some improvements, connecting some of these folks to the services. Sometimes getting them to connect back to the services is a little tricky, but definitely a lot of improvements in the last few months on that front, I think. So
I could see that as the number one stumbling block.
There's some folks really stepping up to make sure that happens with some folks.
And if I could add to that, if you don't mind, two thoughts. One, there's a whole lot of negativity out of there. And yet when you hear somebody like Bethany talk about a huge amount of rain happening and who steps up to take care of their own selves, it's the homeless folks. These are not bad people. These are not people that are, routinely trying to take. They will help. And there are a lot of those kinds of positive stories out there. Sean is collecting them as he's going, I'm sure. And we need to start bragging about that. There are some good things out there, and they can be quite helpful. I'd also like to add, I wrote in the chat that I agree with Jeff Lynn. I would comment that we've got the community court thing going on, and we might pay attention to what seems to be working. I know Sean's involved in all that too, but make sure that they're kind of, if not in the middle of it, at least on the outskirts, to show what those needs are that keep showing up over and over again as we begin to focus on things. Sometimes we end up focusing on one particular issue, and yet this is a broad range of people that are living with us, and they have many issues. Thanks.
I think it's important that our community understands that many of our families are only one paycheck away from being homeless themselves. And this is the reality of our community. And many folks who find themselves in those positions they have to get reestablished, they have to continue their job and get first and last to reestablish their housing and maintain their lives in the same respect. And so sometimes we put in our heads the visual of people who choose to be homeless long-term and don't want to live within rules. But I don't think that is the majority of folks. But you can't get a job if you don't have a location to pick up mail. You can't get a job if you don't have a Social Security card or your medicine and the things that you need to be functional and to apply for a job. And you can't get housing if you can't afford it. And so there's a lot of things that come into place when we have these conversations about services and helping people to be viable and self-sustaining. And unfortunately, the system works against people more often than it works to help them. And so when we have these conversations, they're broad and they're general, but there's a lot of people with real stories in between, and it can affect many, many people. And the forecast is that it will affect more people. And again, I worry about businesses being able to function if somebody's sleeping in their doorway. I worry about somebody being able to get to work if they've been sleeping in the water all night. I worry about a community that has needs and yet at the same time do need to step up a little bit to help change our story, because some of the things we've done have sifted out some valiant people, but it hasn't been a sustaining long-term choice. And so, Jim?
You just had a
Dan?
text there that said that they didn't really know what One Sweet Home was.
Oh, that's a group of people.
So you might have Bethany explain. She's there.
Matt Fuller is the chairman.
Yeah, Matt or Bethany.
Matt, would you like to explain what One Sweet Home is? Thank you, Christina.
Oh, yes. One Sweet Home is really, kind of to give you layman's terms, is really like a hub to bring all the churches together to be unified in prayer and also in action, to come together and work with essentially both faith-based groups and goodwill groups, basically to come together and work with what you guys are doing and to kind of be on the same page to accomplish the goal of helping those less fortunate. We have just recently, we have been connecting with Bethany and One Shelter and what they're doing. So probably those that don't know what One Sweet Home has done in the past, a lot of the times it's been coming together, building community through prayer and worship and events like that. But now there's a little more things happening that One Sweet Home can get involved in, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
I think your phone number's highlighted now. Are they trying to get on?
Yeah, hi. This is Shirley Bird from Family Assistance and Resource Center Group. I'm sorry I had technical difficulties earlier. I just wanted to say that I really agree with Chief Lynn that we have a great need for collaboration. And I'd like to know what the next step is to get that started. If we could get a list of people who are actively pursuing this goal, or how do we go about doing that?
Well, I think your best bet at this point would be to connect with Matt Coleman, since he's the chair of One Sweet Home. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Gorlick.
Yeah. I'm just listening to this and I'm thinking that maybe the city might want to start talking a little bit about some of the rules and regulations that they have to abide by, maybe, because some of that's not getting out to the community, that if we don't do something within public space, that basically it all becomes fair game. And we have to somehow get that out into the community so that they want to do something, that they have a vested interest to start looking at how do we get this accomplished. I don't know.
If our city manager, I'm not sure if you would, but if I could just interject, I would love to see us, and I know it's some horrible words I'm going to throw out, but either get a little committee together or a work group together of many of the people that Bethany mentioned right off the bat herself, Dr. Horton, Matt, Brock, Shirley, Sean, and just start, let's have a discussion on what the future is and maybe start building a framework for what that vision is. I know everybody hates other meetings, but really until we get everybody in a group setting to talk about all of their ideas, because I know for a fact that Brock and Shirley have some amazing ideas. Sean has ideas. I know Larry's been researching different ideas. So to me, it's a commitment, but I think it's well worth doing, getting that group together. Just let's get a framework kind of built around that we can present to the councils and the community, and just on this is what the vision may be.
Well, I think that other discussion though of what that this needs to be done for the betterment of the community, I think somehow we need to get that information out too. You know.
What I would foresee is
Otherwise-
a work session that we need to plan on, at least a half day, if not a full day work session, in which we bring in all the players and get us down at one. There has to be, I think it was Brock that said you have facilitated this type of meeting before. Is that accurate, Brock?
Yes, he did.
Correct. Yes,
Is
I
that
would
something
say
that you would be willing to do if we ended up with 10 to 15 different individuals that want to do a work session with you? Would you be willing to facilitate such a meeting?
absolutely.
Okay. So then we need to come up with a date and a time and start moving.
I completely agree.
Perfect. If maybe folks could get their emails to Sean and he can relay those back to me, and I'll post my email and Shirley's email in the chat here. But if everybody wants to contact me or contact Sean or any way we can get everybody together, I'll be happy to send out agenda and
Well, I would love to see names go to Sean of those that really want to sit in on that work session.
perfect.
There may be somebody from the city that wants to sit in. Maybe somebody from the council. I don't know. Definitely,
Absolutely.
there are interested people here. Get the names to Sean so that then we can start planning a work session. Because without that, we're just going to sit here and spin our wheels at a meeting.
Great idea, Larry.
Well, we need to step forward.
So we have a strategic plan set up.
Jeff, are you willing with Sean to get the names and then send out a date or maybe
Absolutely.
several
We'll
dates?
figure out whether it's some type of doodle poll on
Okay.
some dates that work, and we'll come up with a series of dates and go from there. Yeah.
Brock, does that sound reasonable?
Perfect. Yes, that sounds great.
Okay, and before I stop talking, I'll shut up here in a minute. Bob Dalton has done a lot of research on this over the last year or so. And he sent me some emails from a Jeff Blackford with Chance.
Mhm.
All of you are shaking your head. Yes, this is the first time I had heard about him. But I mean, he sounds like he's right in the middle of all of this between Albany and basically Lynn County at trying to help homeless people. And he has a tremendous amount of resources that I didn't know existed. So he's one that I would say we need to get to that meeting so we can find out what kind of resource. He's telling in this email, if it's accurate, that he can get hotel rooms for homeless people to stay in.
That's what they do throughout the region, Larry.
I mean, that's the first I've heard of that one.
I think he's still looking for people to fill positions that had been looking for. Remember, Dick?
Yeah.
He talked about needing 2 more positions in his.
And they do a lot of work in Sweet Home. They're involved in the community court as well.
Okay,
and,
good.
Provide some resources there. And so I know they are stretched thin right now, and they've had a difficult time getting a stronger foothold in East Lynn County.
Okay.
They were looking for a place to rent, actually.
They're already on
As I was mentioning earlier.
All right. Yeah. Well, definitely, I want him sitting at the table if he has resources. Okay.
Second one down. He's
All right.
usually the other one up.
Good.
So, do we have any more conversation regarding this issue?
Well, I think that's the direction that I heard at that meeting that we had a week or so ago, that city council wants us to make some movement on coming up with a plan. And I think it's time to do that. And Bethany, I applaud you for the short term, but it as you and Jeff and everyone else has said, it's time to move forward from that now.
So the only question I have for Brock is how many people is a maximum in your facilitation?
Well, we don't have a facility, and I'm open to facilitating. Believe it or not, I've facilitated up to 2,000 people before, so we can handle based on COVID guidelines and such. Sometimes some of the initial preps by usually a small group of 7 to 10 people, and then
7 to 10 would be
you
perfect.
go to the larger group.
Yeah, just trying to get an idea so we can set a goal of how many people we want in that meeting.
Perfect.
If I could, it might be something we would want to reach out to the community center as well, so we could have some additional spacing. Again, I think you're going to get a lot of input from members of the public on this moving forward as well, who will want to participate, who may not be stakeholders so far as a group, but who certainly, as members of the public, may have some input and
Well,
be a part
we
of
I
it.
would
either-
see that
we-
as a next step after this
Right.
committee work together.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what I would see anyway, is let this committee do some work, see where it is, and then go public with it.
Because
and
we can open
get
up
public
the
input.
cafeteria and do that later, but you need to have a core group that I think.
Knows what they're doing.
Well,
It will be a work session, so I'm happy based on how many people we get. Just depends how much more pre-work I need to do to facilitate it, but I'm open to anyway, and then we can report to the council as they would have us report back or report through Sean. I'm happy anyway.
We will have to worry about some COVID restrictions, so just to put it in
Yep.
the mid.
I can get the cafeteria if you want.
well, for this one, I think Sean is going like this, and I'm kind of going like that myself. If we've got a small group that's dedicated to getting some stuff down so that everyone else in the world can look at it, right now we don't have anything to look at.
Got to have some
We
goals.
virtually have nothing.
Correct.
So let's come up with at least a start of a framework.
The focus, you just focus the whole
and
thing.
Set some goals and move. Then let other people start shooting at it.
Okay, so do we have any other new business before us?
Motion to adjourn.
I actually had something real quick.
Then I'll withdraw my motion.
Oh,
Dick.
you're not fast enough, Dick.
I know I was having this blow my nose. Actually, I just before this meeting, I was part of a Facebook meeting. The Heart Board meets out of Albany, but they had their annual memorial service for folks who passed away while living on the streets. Jeff Lynn and I have done a little work with this across the years. And I would just wanted to mention that if people wanted to go to, it's called Albany Heart on Facebook. They now have a virtual video of the about half an hour memorial service for people who died on the streets in Lynn County. And I just wanted to put it out there. It's actually kind of mind numbing. There were 9 people, actually it grew to 10 in the last 2 weeks. That's a lot of folks. So just thought I'd bring it up in case people wanted to check. And thanks, Jim.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey, Dick,
Okay, meeting's adjourned.
Yeah,
I don't have your phone number. Can you give that to me?
not over the air, I won't.
Yeah.